Hello, this is Alejandro Bratti from Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business, and welcome to the Spanglish World Networks and Single TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Single TV app and the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free and is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Roku, and all smart TVs. Today, I am happy to have a very good friend, Ambereen. Ambereen or Ambereen? How do you?
Umbrine, close enough.
So we are colleagues in the high performance. So this is something that I love to do, and I know that Ambereen also love it a lot. And she do it in a different way. So that's why I am more excited today because it's going to be in a way of connecting with family and all of that. So how are you, Amber, today?
I'm excited, doing well. How about you?
I am doing very well. Today is a very good day. A little bit tired, but it's okay.
What makes it
uh,
good?
yeah. What makes it good for me? I closed a couple of clients this today, so I am so happy for that, and I keep like working on myself all the time. That's something that I like to do, like finding what are the things that how I can fine tune my life. So that is very happy, and I am happy when I am in that mood of finding little things to change and fixing them. So it's great.
Love that.
So how it works the program, Ambreen. First, we'll start off. What are you doing now? I did a little bit of the introduction, but I want you to give a little bit more details of what are you doing now, and then we're going to go back in your life, how you develop this like interest and this passion to do what you are doing now. So let's start with what you are doing now.
Yeah, right now I am serving families through high performance coaching, where I take them on a 3 month journey of the high performance habits. And we kind of focus on what does it mean to have clarity with your family? What does it mean to have use energy to interact with each other and to actually unite and unify? How is it possible for you to be more productive? What is the value of quality time over the quantity of time? Talk a lot about influence, how each single one of us does not choose our families, but we are put into our families for a reason. So, how do we influence each other better to rise and become more courageous, unified together? So, my mission is to actually take families on a journey where they create an irreplaceable and an authentic bond shared around acceptance, gratitude, and just values that are common between all members.
Mm, awesome. So let's go a little bit back in your life that where you want to start. It's okay. There are some people who like, okay, before I was born, there was a problem between my parents. So it's okay if you go to that level, or if you want to go a little bit in your childhood or in your teenager or when you started to be a mom. It's okay. But I want to start to know like some moment of truth for you that started to help you to become who you are and to start to understand really this thing like okay why families are so important and it's a no like what we were saying in the program it's something that can change everything in your life.
Yeah, so I would say the reason why families are so important to my life is when I was 16 years old, we were people who were practicing Muslims. I made a mistake and I thought I wasn't going to be forgiven from that mistake. So I started to work a lot harder to strengthen my spiritual connection. And then at the age of 18, I got into a pretty brutal car accident where anyone that saw the car looked at my face and they were like, "How are you alive?" My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was with me in that moment. He went through a lot of difficulties, in that accident, and as we got hit by this huge SUV, he last moments he remembers the SUV is coming on my side, hitting me like bam, and he passes out. And I don't know the severity of the car because you don't really process that in that age. But it was like a scene from a movie where there were five different areas that you can actually get to that lane the accident was on. and every single one of them was blocked off. There were 6 ambulances in that area, fire engines, and my parents didn't know where this is back in the day. It's like no cell phone kind of day, right? You're just like, so I literally am running now, and I found somebody who's just crossing by before the police came, and I called the police. I called my mom and I said, I'm on these cross sections, I got into an accident. And my mom's like, those don't really, they don't ever unite, I don't know what you're talking about. And so what that led for me was this necessity to understand that I am still alive for a bigger reason. Um,
Mm.
Everyone, including my grandfather, thought I was dead. So when he, became conscious again, the first question that he asked was like, "Where is Umber?" And that's what he would call me for, like a nickname. And my mom's like, "She's totally fine. Everything is great." And he's like, "You're lying to me. I know she's dead." And I think that's where kind of personal development and self development became part of my life even more so. So the first one was more spiritually connected. And then at the age of 18, I started to develop myself as a person. And by the time I was 21 years old, I was rock solid, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, so connected. And this concept of congruence that we talk about in high performance, knowing who you are and what value you can add by serving other people was something I began to live by a lot. So.
So just to understand a little bit, when you said that at 16 you were doing a mistake, what was the mistake,
Mhm.
if we can know?
So I started to like a guy, okay? And it
Okay.
was like a no-go zone. Like in in our family, these values were things that you're not messing around with, right? Like you're not going and pursuing any relationships. You're not getting like talking to a man that you like, or boy that at that time that you liked. And so I started to develop this interest, and I couldn't really contain it as much as I wanted to. I didn't do anything bad. I never went on a date with him, but there were still pit stops, like actions. Like I would be on the phone with him sometimes, and I feel so guilty and bad because I'm breaking a value that my family had set, which was like a boundary that no one crosses over. Where, my friends were all dating. They all had boyfriends for years and they were in very intimate relationships. But for me, I thought that was like the biggest sin. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hell. I'm hellbound. And so,
But this is really okay. Let me ask you then. So now, with all the knowledge that you have right now and the wisdom and everything that you have developed, do you still consider that that was a mistake, or how do you see it?
so I actually started to realize and recognize that there are two types of relationship that we have with our creator. Um, One is a fear-based relationship with with our creator, with the universe, what I want to call it, the thing that puts you on this planet. And there's a love-based relationship. So until the age of 16, I was very love forward. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hell and I'm scared of God. So I would say I needed that lesson, right? I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I wouldn't say I did something bad because now that I think about it, I literally laugh in my head and I'm like, wait, you thought that was like a sin that's gonna get you to hell? But I think, because in our household it was such a ginormous thing that I slipped and I fell and I became really, a bad human or a bad Muslim, that I thought I was gonna, like drill into something bad. So was it a mistake that I needed? Yes. Do I look at it like it was actually a big mistake in my life? Not at all.
No, and I am asking you, and I am curious on this because, for example, in my case, I was raised in a Christian family, and the church where we were going, it was like you had to say hi to a girl with your hand because you can give a kiss. That it's
Hmm.
like a sin, and it was something very bad to do. So at the end, you start to develop exactly that fear-based faith that
Hmm.
everything is about fear and you are going to go to hell if you start to do this and this and this, and suddenly everything is a lot of rules that you stop living. You are just following rules or you are trying to break rules. Any of both, depending on the age that you are. So and that's something that happens a lot in families. So it's like, okay, you want to have your kids in a safe environment and you don't want them to anything to happen to them, and you start to put rules and you start to put things and you start to say things to them in order to keep them safe. But at some moment they have to start to live, and they have to know that there is a life out there. And if you have them in a bubble, suddenly uh, things that you don't want happen.
Yeah.
So, uh,
And
how,
that's a great point that you mentioned, because I think the one of the foundations and the reason why I chose the word acceptance as something that's the value that I add into the lives of families when I coaching them is your kids are going to make mistakes. Your parents are going to make mistakes. Your parents are going to say, okay, I will be more respectful to you when guests are come over, but they'll make the same mistake again and again. But understanding that we need to accept our families with their flaws, with their challenges, because we're all a work in progress is so important. And I think that's where the distinguishing factor now comes, where are my kids going to slip? Yeah. Will they make a lot of mistakes? Most definitely. But as a mother, if I can tell them those mistakes are open and they're welcomed because they shape who you are, kind of going back to my own mistake, then it's okay. And if we as parents can champion our children and give them the safety and the security that they need to be authentically themselves,
mm,
then what a beautiful relationship that you've built for a lifetime. And that, of course, evolves, right? Right now, they're just your kids. Then you have more relationships, right? Like you have nieces and nephews. Then you are a grandparent. And it kind of keeps going, but it's these foundations that bond is so irreplaceable. It's so strong that it benefits you from generations to come, which you may not see in this coaching, in this coaching program.
so let's start to understand from your point of view. Okay, there is the clarity session that you are going to help families to have clarity on how to be better or how they can connect better. What is exactly what happens in that session when you are working with families?
Yeah. So in that session, the way that I'm doing it is I'm dividing it up into 2 different weeks. Normally, it's a 1 week power course. But because I have family members, all come from different stages of life, I really want them to even understand and define for me what does it mean to have clarity, right? And each single family member kind of tells us, well, this is my North Star. This is where I want to go. This is what I see for my future. And that requires a lot of work. But the beautiful thing is, you open up this platform where the families are talking about what they want from life, what they desire from life, right? And I was talking to my nephew today about this, and I was like, every single person has a different definition of what it means to have clarity. But what happens in the clarity session is we start to kind of develop those foundations, those frameworks or pillars, whatever you want to call them, that are the shared values. Because if you're clear on those values, whether it be 4, 5, 6, whatever your family wants to design and define, then you have such a marching point to go from, right? So one of the family members, they say, you know what? We just love to have fun. What is a family who loves to have fun, laugh, create new experiences? Okay, well, if that's one of your pillars, how are you going to have fun consistently? And so they say, well, I think once a month we can plan an adventure, right? Every single month you have something like October, right? You had Halloween, November, you have Thanksgiving. You can plan an adventure around that, add more fun to your life. And so that's where clarity really comes in to say that these are your foundations. And if you strengthen these and work consistently on just those, 5 or 6, you can really start to elevate this unit of within a family.
And I believe this is, I want to go a little bit deeper on this because I like a lot something that you are saying. Normally, when I am working with business owners and people in the business side, talking about values is like, okay, of course, I have to know what are my values in my company. And that doesn't mean that everybody knows, but normally it's more understandable to have like the values and beliefs and all of that in the business environment to
Hmm.
grow and to start to know how to do it. But that is not something that, at least from my point of view, happens in families. It's like we guess that these are the values. We guess that because the way my grandmom is talking to my mom and my grandpa is talking to my dad, uh, those are the values, or the way they
Hmm.
are punishing me on these things, these are their values. But
Hmm.
normally, at least in my experience, family doesn't have clear what are their values and what is exactly what they are looking for as a family. That's your experience, or what have you find when you have been working with families?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful because every single family has their own journey, which is why the word authenticity is so important to me, right? Like, you are you, Alejandro, and I am me, right? You and I may share similar experiences because we're both high performance coach with the same exact academy, but that doesn't mean our lives are the same way or we value the same things, right? So it really pushes families to define what that is. And the reason why the clarity piece is so important, and also this I think goes into a little bit of courage as well, is like a family will say, well, we just want to have fun. But then you design this whole adventure and everyone's going on, to this adventure in Thanksgiving, and you guys have booked a really nice, lovely cabin and done whatever you needed to do. And then at the end, they're like, well, my friends are going to have like a Friendsgiving. I really can't go. But then you say, remember, you had defined that fun with the family was one of your core values. So now you have clarity to say, well, what's more important? The commitment I made to my family months ago and we planned it, or the ad hoc request that came, with my friends. Either answer is fine, as long as you can respectfully convey that to the other party, whoever that is. And I
Mm.
think that's where the key is, because you find like a lot of times these families don't even know that they're already living into their values, right?
Mm.
Like similar to what you said. Like in our home, respect wasn't something my mom preached. She was never like, we value respect in every single person. No, it was just like a given, right? Because we saw it. We saw it with every interaction that you had. We saw this with my dad. Every single person he respected, regardless how they spoke down at him sometimes. And it's it's like, so there's no one way of doing it. Every single family has similar themes. They have, challenges with communication. They have challenges with acceptance. They have a mindset that's not serving the family. They see that they're not taking out time for each other. They say they value one another, but there's no commitment of time. So these are some of the themes that keep coming up. And that's where this disconnect happens, right? So my intention is to kind of like make you like this unified, unit. But most of the families that we see now are disconnected because although they say this is important, they're not focusing time and effort into it.
So let's go now a little bit with your family, with you, like as a daughter, maybe, or as a wife, or as a mother. Uh,
Hmm.
how this process has been changing now with the perspective that you have right now. Okay, when I was a daughter, this was happening. When I became a wife, this started to happen. And when I am a mom, and I know that mom of 2 years old is one thing, of 10 years old is another thing, of 15
Hmm.
years old is another thing. So how everything has been developing and changing in your life, and even what challenges have you found?
Yeah, I love that question that you asked. I think it kind of puts me in a place to kind of go back and do the work. When I was a daughter, I was very obedient, very obedient. Like my dad one time told me, "You can't drive on the highway." And I said, okay, dad. No questions asked. Okay, dad. I never went on the highway. And then 3 years after, I'm talking to my sister who just got her license a year before. She's like, yeah, when I'm on the highway, I went on the wrong ramp. So I like, you turned back in. And I'm like, wait, you went on the highway? Dad said we can't go. And she's like, dad doesn't know. So for me, whenever my parents said something, I just did it. I didn't really question it. And I took that same mindset into my marriage, where whatever your spouse says, because he's a man and he knows better and he knows more, that's the cultural training that we get. You kind of just accept it as it is. So I did. I blindly trusted him, and sometimes I felt like it was wrong of me to trust him. But what I started to do is I saw myself in my marriage carrying out the same lifestyle that my mom had. So similar relationship with my mom and dad was kind of something that I was repeating. And I knew it wasn't good for me because when I was a daughter, I would kind of speak up to my mom and tell my dad, "Hey, dad, don't do that. That's not nice." And so that kind of transferred into my marriage. And then when I became a mother, I think you're always evolving. You're right. Like I always tell everybody this, like, hey, when they're young, it's a physical drain. You just need like energy and power to get through it. But when it becomes a mental conflict, oh, that's like next level. And I joke around and I say that's why the kids are little, right? And then they grow up. Imagine a kid being born and you have to start dealing with those mental challenges right away. You're not prepared for it. And so what I've noticed is a lot of the upbringing, the values that I think are important, the respect, right? Respect everyone, regardless of how old they are, how young they are, whatever it is. The one thing where I've changed and pivoted from my own upbringing is this sense of my kids have full authority to correct me. The biggest thing is respectfully. So my kids can say to me, "Hey, no, mom, I don't really want to come to the library. I just don't feel like it. And last time when I went, you didn't spend time with me, so I really don't want to go this time." They can say that to me. So now I have a choice to say, "Oh, do you want me to spend time with you today? Because I can. If not, next time we'll do it." And so then that conversation changes. When my kids sense that I am in not in the best mindset and the best tone of my voice, they'll be the quickest ones to correct me. Like I can be upstairs coming down the stairs, like, "Hey, mama, like, can you just chill out?" And you're like, "Okay, well, chill out," right? Or they'll say, "Hey, you said you were gonna do this with me today. It's 7 o'clock. Are we still doing that?" And so this checks and balances system, which in our culture is a no-go with parents. You can never ever hold your parents accountable ever. You know, the other thing is that in our culture, we people hit their kids, right? They smack them. So that's one rule, and that was cute. I was having an impromptu dinner with a lot of my nephews that kind of just came in yesterday, and one of them is like, "Wait," he's asking my son, "Wait, you never been hit before?" And he goes, "No." He's like, your mom never hit you before?" And he's like, "No." He's like she did. And it was so funny to watch it because you're like, "Oh, that's normal in your house." He's like, "No, she doesn't hit us." So in our culture, it's very normal to do a little spank here and there to fix the kids up. And they say that that intimidation and fear will help you kind of keep them accountable or make them better humans. So that's something that I haven't done because I think the reason why we abuse somebody else is because we have our own shortcomings that we can't deal with. So we project onto them something that's not our best selves.
Mm, wow. So you talk a lot of points. Let me ask you a couple of things. So you were saying like you were like doing the same things that your parents were doing in your marriage.
Hmm.
When, how was the awareness of reviewing that, and what did you do to change that?
So what began, I mean, the awareness part of it, I think it came and it left because I wasn't focused on awareness. At that time, for me, it was more like survival, just get by, do what is needed. And that's what I think a lot of moms who stay at home do. Because sadly, the culture that we live in says unless we bring home money, we're of no value and use to society.
Mm,
And I 120% chose because I was working before my son was born. And I told my husband at that time, I said, once the kids start coming, I am really not going into the job market and working. Because for me, the primary focus, and I really believe this, I have this really fun word. I call myself ex mom, which is like a superhero mom. And her commitment and dedication is to her family. Is I was born in a way to raise these children as best as I can. And in my mind, I can't do that if I am working a full time job and trying to be my best with the most present energy, give them the food that they need, attention, the love, everything that's required to raise these children. So, those things, I started to see that they didn't really think, people didn't think of them as values or value adds, kind of like, oh, you're like worthless because you're just a stay at home mom. But then my perspective began to shift to say, I'm the homemaker. I'm the person who's saving hundreds and thousands of dollars of daycare. I'm the person who has everything done from the bills are paid on time to the groceries here to every single day fresh food. I make bread every single day at home, like fresh bread. I don't do it as much now, but back then when the kids were younger, their laundry is done, the whole house organized, is clean. Every single thing that I'm doing, I got started to embrace that and appreciate that. And then when my daughter was a little bit older, I went back into the job market, and that's when a lot of things kind of began to change where I had to reassess myself. So that's what I would say are some of the things that I did. And the way that it kind of piggybacks off of what my mom did is my mom worked a full-time job after coming to America. Before that, she had never worked. And seeing her being completely present with us, regardless of what shift she worked. There was a time she worked night shift. She would come home at 4 in the morning and she would make fresh bread for my dad. every single morning. No rest, no break, no nothing. And kind of going into a routine of just serving us, sleeping maybe 3 to 4 hours a day, if that. And I remember that I felt like mom never was not around. She was always around. And so for me, it was important to do the same for my kids because when we came to America, we were a little bit older, you know. So,
Awesome. Um, so with let's go back to the clarity session. When you are having this clarity session, what happens because you are working with families, the whole family normally, right? Depends if they are
mhm.
very little, the kids, of course, it's not going
Yeah.
to be there, but uh, what happens when you start to see that the parents have some values and the kids have other values? Want to be free, break free, and they will
Mhm.
have a
Good.
like, okay, one is I want respect, and the other one I want to have fun. That it's exactly
Mhm.
maybe the opposite. I don't know. Just guessing here. How you help them to connect those
Yeah.
different
So
ideas of life?
And I think that's such a key question, right? Because we're all different, we value different things. So the beautiful part about this program, which I have not seen, heard anyone do, is I take them on a journey together, and then I have private sessions with each member too, which is why that session is broken down into 2 different weeks. Because the intention is to holistically understand the unit, take the nuggets and the goodness that they're telling me in private, which they may not be able to communicate with their family because they haven't worked up the courage to do it. They don't want to offend their loved ones. And then I kind of tie it all back. Because while I'm doing my one on one, let's say with a second son, okay, the other family members, depending on how many there are, they're doing their own assignments. They're in a breakout room talking amongst prompts, or they're in a breakout room journaling. They're in a breakout room doing work on clarity. So if I were to ask, what is the most 5 important values for you? Everyone writes it down on their own time because I'm working with one person right now, and that person is kind of communicating similar things. You can come back and you can share that list, and you'll start to see that a lot of them are similar. They may not be the same words, but they're similar because these parents have been raising these children with these values. They just haven't been vocalized, and um, they haven't been like formed in a way where they become foundations. And if there is, of course, always there is like that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Well, how important is that value for you? Right? How important is freedom for you? Okay, well, great. And the kid's like, that's my number one value. My parents don't give me freedom. Okay, let's work on that. What does freedom mean for you? What does freedom mean for their parents? Where can the both of you meet in the middle to understand freedom in a new way? And remember, the more accountable that you are in leveraging that freedom to benefit you and to be in integrity with your family, the more you'll start to get it. This is like common practice, right? We trust our children more when they become more trustworthy.
Mm.
We show up better for ourselves when we can, like our families, when we continue to show up better for ourselves. So it's like this beautiful dance of we can all start here, but by the next 3 months you're going to make a ginormous progress where it's just becoming, these habits are kind of just becoming who you are as a unit.
And there is a lot of questions that comes to me, but for example, even when I am a dad, I am going to ask this question. It's like sometimes it's cultural thing. A lot of families are like more in the side of, okay, the thing that happens in the house has to be the mom, everything that happens in the house, and the dad is the one that is bringing the money and everything that you were saying. So in this case, what you are talking about, this type of relationship and understanding and doing the high performance for the family, it seems like okay for the mom and the kids maybe it's a must because they are in that struggle, but
Yeah.
the dad is thinking like why I have to be involved if I am not doing all those activities. So that's a guessing in my head, like that
Mm.
I believe that happens a little bit, maybe a lot. So how you bring the people, like even the parents, the father, to say like, okay, it's important to me there to be there, not only the mom but the dad too. and not only the kids but the teenagers too, because that's another
Mm-hmm.
challenge. Like the teenagers doesn't want to hear about this because I am tired of new things.
Yeah, or like tired of doing things you want me to do. I think that question is so valuable because we do live in a culture where the mom lifts a lot of the weight when it comes to family and upbringing. But the one thing that I share with most of my clients is you were put on this earth when you brought this children, like when you brought this child to life, right? This child did not exist. You created this child and you brought this child to life. You have 9 months to prepare for this role, right? At least you can understand what kind of a father do I want to be in that 9 months. You can never prepare to be a parent. I think it's a work in progress, but you can identify what it means for you to be a father. You can identify what it means to be for a mother. And if you can tap into that and say, you know what, I want to be a semi involved dad. Like, I'm not going to be changing 20 diapers in a day, but I can do one a day. Okay, great. Diaper changing is one of the most beautiful ways research shows that you actually build a relationship between your child and yourself. Your child knows your touch, your child feels your touch. Without talking, the both of you are connecting. Okay, the dad says, you know what? I don't really care about the whole family shenanigan and jargon. I'm just gonna go make money, come home, eat my food, watch my TV, go to sleep, do the same thing again. Great. Well, every single parent, in my mind, is a leader. Okay. And that's why I love this definition that I've kind of put in my own head is like each one of us, when we become parents, we are leaders. Either we are conscious leaders, making our children grow to be the best of who they are, or we're just mundane and unconscious leaders. We're just kind of going about the day, not too worried about what your kids are going to do in the future. Because then later in life, you really can't be sad that you have no connection with them, you have no bond with them, that you have no values together, that you're not grateful for each other. There's no connection, right? You can't really be sad for those things. So when you put it into that perspective and you say to the dad, like, remember that the day that they turn 18, they might never come back and look at you again because you didn't show up for them the way they expected you to, because you didn't lead the family. The other thing I think is key here is like men, right? In general, men love to be patriarchal. They love to lead, right? That's what they feel like they're meant to be. The reason why I'm the breadwinner because I'm leading the family into something and I'm providing to them. Well, what kind of a provider do you want to be? And how does that impact your leadership in this? If if 10 years later your kid comes up to you and says, hey dad, I have everything in the world. I have all the gadgets, all the great shoes, all the amazing clothes, but I don't have a connection with you. I don't miss you when you're gone for your week long trips. That's gotta hurt.
Mm.
So it's time for everyone to step up and do this together.
And just because I have to say it, but for example, in my case, as a dad, I understand what you are saying that you have 9 months to prepare. But in reality, at least in my case, what happened is I really started to see what was reality and what was going to happen the day that he was born at the hospital. Not the other 9 months, I was like, okay, I don't know what to expect. And even the bonds, it's a little bit difficult because I don't have it in my body, you know. So at the end,
Mhm.
that was something that for me, my wife was always telling me, "Oh, you have to do the first one was born in Panama. It's like you have to be like the kangaroo that you're going to have the kid like hugging like all the time." And I was like, "No, that's bullshit. I don't want that. That's not something that I
Mhm.
want." And no, and you have, and she started to give me a lot of ideas of how to connect with my kid, and I was exactly like against all of that.
Mhm.
And the day he was born, the minute that he was born, I started to do all of that.
Yeah,
but
see?
but until that moment, I realized I want that, and I even was kicked out of the room where all the babies are because I didn't want to leave him, you know. But I didn't know about that about me until he was there.
Yeah.
The
But
minutes before, I was like, I don't know, I don't want to be like doing all of this stuff.
yeah. And I think it's so different, right? For a mom, she's going through the changes. She feels the child in her, right? So she has no choice but to prepare. But for a dad, all you see is like your wife, your lady, your partner keeps getting bigger and bigger, right? Cranky, madder, bigger, no sleep. Like she's becoming someone you're like, oh my
Hormones
God,
are
like, when,
changing a lot.
exactly. You're like, when this come to an end? But the key is exactly what you said. Your partner started to kind of in your mind plant seeds. Started to plant seeds, give you ideas, things you weren't really receiving, right? Like openly, but they were being planted in you. And the second that you saw your child, and I think the same happens for many other fathers, is there's something magical that happens in that exact moment when you see your child take its first breath. And you're like, what? Like, it's a feeling that you can't describe, you can't validate, but it's in you. So that feeling is the charge that you need to become the father that you need to become. In that moment in time, do you have to have clarity? Do you have to know that gratitude is your top value? No. But you do have to know that this child matters. I'm going to do everything I can to influence this child to be their best. And that's where that shift has to happen.
Mm, mm, I love that. So after the clarity, what I know that there is a lot of sessions, but what are the next one that you want to talk a little bit that it's important when you are working with families? Uh, Courage or how is it? Which one is
Yeah.
or influence even?
I
I don't know.
Yes, and I'm so glad you said those two. So I want to start off with courage because I think that we look at courage in a very different manner. But courage is like small acts of doing things that you thought you couldn't just do. Simple,
Mm,
small acts that you were like, oh, I didn't know I had that in me. And the reason why courage is so important is because what we talked about a little bit, like, what if every single family member defines values differently? You have to have the courage to say that, hey, dad, this is really going against our value, right? We have to have the courage to say, I can't do Thanksgiving with you guys this year. I know we were really trying to, but I gotta talk. I gotta be with my friends. That's more important in this moment. Courage is this beautiful dance of communicating eloquently with respect to get where you want to go. And I think in the world that we live in now, communicating is something that we don't do, especially with our family, right? The people we live with every single day, we communicate the least with, which in my mind is like the people that you live with every day, you communicate the least with, right? I know people who like the text their kid like dinner's ready. The kid's upstairs in the room, but you're texting them saying dinner's ready. And so, is that the is as humans, is that the connection that we need? No, we don't. But how do you evolve that? How do you take the courageous, bold move to say, hey, I'm going to come into your room? And this is courage for a mom, right? Having to leave her kitchen when she's preparing dinner or is done with dinner, going up to the kid's room because you're like, man, I'm tired and exhausted. I have so much work to do. Going up to your kid's room and just politely saying, hey, kiddo, dinner will be on 5 minutes. If you can come a little bit earlier to help me, that would be great. That takes courage. That takes vulnerability because as parents, we don't want to ask for help. But how do we set up these kids for success if we're not asking them to help us with simple things that they have to do, like taking care of a household? So I think with courage, what you start to realize is people think courage is like jumping off of an airplane, right? Like skydiving is courageous, or going on the highest roller coaster, the fastest one is courageous. I think building a bond with your family is so courageous
mm,
because you're always going to have ups and downs with that. And I think the findings are pretty magnificent to say that courage is anything that requires me to take a deep breath, come up with a plan before articulating.
awesome. And I am going to go quick because it's incredible, but it's already 40 minutes from the show.
20
That
minutes.
means that we have only 10 minutes. Uh, do you want to talk about another area like influence or another thing, or do you want to start to give like some thoughts on how people can really start to find a better relationship, better connection with their partner and with their kids, you know.
Yeah, I think influence is a little bit of all of that, actually, what you said. So, my intention here is to influence you to prioritize your family, to make sure that this remarkable unit that you've been placed into is there for a reason. You have your mom and dad, even how difficult they are, every single kid and the challenges, how difficult they are, they're there to make you grow. And through your growth, you start to influence them, each other. You know, your family is the first unit of influence that you have,
Mm,
the first. And the influence begins in the womb. Your kid does not have to come out of the world into the world to be influenced by you. The diet your mom has during her pregnancy is influencing the diet this child will have because they're building neural pathways in their brains and they're knowing what they want. What are they getting addicted to, let's say, right? The energy your dad is creating with your mom, right, while talking to her in the house, is energy that the child is sucking in. It's going to be something that's going to uplift the child or bring the child down, which impacts the child's health. And all these simple things and simple shifts that we can make are so profoundly embedded in this concept of influence.
mm,
So I talk about parenting a lot. Conscious parenting is how we influence our children. What does that mean to be a conscious parent? It means to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, because you recognize that you're a role model in this household. And if you
mm,
go into this simple mindset shift of saying, I am a role model, everything that I do, they will follow, or they will remember, or they will turn back to. Not what I say. My kids, most kids, including mine, will not remember everything that you say. We as humans don't. You and I are talking today, we'll probably take away 20% of what we talked about and take it back, right? But the way that you made me feel, I will take for years to come. The fact that you gave me this opportunity, which I'm so grateful for, right? To open up this platform where I can tap into so many people and let them know that, hey, you know what? There is hope. For every single family, there is hope. Just reach out, raise your hand. Teach your children, your spouse, your partner. I also ask for help, and that's okay because I'm influencing all of you to say, it's okay to ask for help because I really don't know everything.
mm,
And so I think as families, we fail to realize that our actions are so influential. And that action could be the tone of your voice
mm,
to something as simple as stomping as you're exiting a room, you know? And my kids and I have this, that they know. Like if they're really mad, one of them, two of them will stomp and like go up the stairs really mad. And they know I'm like, hey Baba, come back down. That's all I have to say. They come right back down, and now they walk up those stairs with more respect. Because I don't need that energy polluting the whole house because the influence you're still leaving behind through your actions.
mm. Well, that is that is really powerful. So I have a question in regards in the title for this program. We said empowering families. What is the meaning of empowering for you?
For me, to feel empowered is having this understanding and this mindset that everything is possible, that the power lies within you, lies within me, it lies within us. And when we start to let culture, society, social media, whatever it is, dictate for us how to lead our lives, we give away our power. So, empowerment is this ability to keep control of your own power with your own mindset and how it is that you live about in your life.
Awesome. I really love completely everything. So tell us a little bit how it's the work, how you work with families. If anybody that is listening is interested on contacting you, how they can contact you, how they can know a little bit more about this empowering
Yeah.
families, high performance coaching.
Yeah. I love that. And I think like I really want to touch upon this before we close is this sense of gratitude is something that I really want to build into families because gratitude is one of the biggest predictor of joy,
Mm,
which I think every family can use more of. And when you start to appreciate the flaws of your mom and your dad and your siblings and your children, you start to appreciate who they are and accept them for who they are, even with all the baggage and with all the difficulties that they bring into your
Mm.
life. And the best way for anyone to reach me is, I'm on social media, every single one that you could possibly imagine, as just Coach Ambereen. That is my first name along with Coach. And, I would love for anybody just to DM me. If you want to just connect and just hop on a quick call, tell me the challenges that you're facing. And I would love to see how I can add value into your life. So reach out to me on social media, DM me, Coach Ambereen. My website is still in the making. So I cannot share that information with you, but I'm so looking forward to taking us on this journey of high performance driven family coaching, and hopefully make you guys come out a lot stronger and fully intact as a joint unit.
Let me ask you a question that we do always as high performance, and I know that this was not a high performance coaching call, but I am going to ask you, what did you love about today?
What I loved about today is this understanding that I'm very purpose driven,
Mm.
and my coaching company is called Tawakal Coaching. The word tawakal is derived from an Arabic word which means having faith and belief in something greater than.
Mm.
And that could be a belief in a better version of you, of your family, of your community, of this earth, of the universe, whatever you want to call it. But just something better, having faith in something greater for all of us. And today I got to tap into that purpose a little bit and share with every single person who's watching that there's greatness inside of you that's waiting to be unleashed, right? So just small steps every day will allow you to unleash it. And that gives me reason to actually live. And that's where purpose is so vital in my day to day.
So thank you, Ambereen. Really, today for me was really good. I have done a lot of this high performance coaching, even with families, but not in this way. And I love to hear this, like how you are doing it and how you are developing. So Ambereen is somebody that I know for a long time, several, like, so I believe it's, if you are having some struggle with communication, struggles with knowing what to do with that kid that is doing whatever he wants and not what you want, and understanding what is happening between one and the other, or even with your partner. Maybe there is another issue with your partner. I highly recommend you to contact Ambereen and start to know if there is another way of doing it. Maybe the way you have been doing it is not working right now, but there is always another way, and that can be something that you can find with Ambereen. So thank you, Ambereen. It was really a pleasure to be with you today.
Likewise. And
Eh,
sincere gratitude as well, Alejandro, for this opportunity and for you to share this energy and time with me.
no, thank you. So, everyone, this show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it. Thank you, Ambreen, and thank you all.
Bye.